The marble floor gleamed under the morning light the same way it always did in John Jungkook's mansion, cold, perfect, and painfully quiet. You were in the kitchen humming softly as you cut strawberries for your daughter's breakfast. The sound of her teeny laughter filled the air, that sweet melody that made every sacrifice worth it. Mommy, little Mina giggled, her curvy fingers clutching the edge of the counter. Appa coming home today early? You smiled softly. Even though your heart knew the answer. I don't think so, baby. Daddy is busy, remember? She pouted, her lips trembling. He always busy, you said, crouching down to wipe the juice from her cheek. He works hard for us, sweetheart. That's why we have this beautiful home. Mina nodded, still frowning, her little eyes so much like Jungkook's flickered with an idea. Then I will ask him when he come home. You didn't know what she was planning and you didn't think much of it. That was your first mistake. Evening, the front door opened with a heavy thud. You look up from the dining table, straightening your apron. Jung stepped in, tall and sharp in his black suit. His tie hung slightly loose, his short tie from another long day. He didn't greet you, he never really did. Just a curt note, a quiet glance. You walked toward him anyway, half flirting nervously like every day since your marriage. You are home early, you said softly. He home shaking off his blazer, meeting got cancelled. You nodded, reaching to take his bag, but he handed it to the maid instead. Your hand froze mid-air, an old familiar AC burning in your chest. Then came Mina, running full speed. Appa, she squealed, wrapping her tiny arms around his leg. For the first time, you saw Jungkook's cold features soften slightly. He patted her head gently, his lips twitching in something close to a smile. Did you behave today? Yes, he said proudly. Mommy made pancakes. That's good, he said in his deep, even voice, eyes flickering briefly toward you, just long enough to make your stomach twist. And then Mina said it. Appa, can I have a baby brother? The wolf was. You had to midnight sharp silence flooding the room. The maid rose to eyes wide. Jungkook's expressions hardened instantly, his gaze snapping toward you. What? His voice came all like steel. Mina blinked up at him innocently. I want a brother. Mommy said babies are gifts. So can you make one for me? You nearly choked on her. Mina, no sweetheart, I didn't. But Jungkook's jaw was already clenched, his eyes burning into yours. Go to your room, Mina, he said flatly. But no. The weight of his tone made even the walls flinch. Mina whimpered, looking between the two of you before running upstairs. The soft patter of her feet faded, and then came silence, a suffocating one. You opened your mouth to explain, but his voice cut you like a blade. So that's your plan, he said coldly, using our daughter to get my attention. Your heart dot what? Jungkook, no, I didn't even know she would. He scoffed, tossing his watch onto the counter. Of course you didn't. You just conveniently let her say something like that. You flinched at his tone. She's 5, Jungkook. She doesn't even understand exactly, which means someone put that idea in her head. He took a step closer, eyes burning with quiet fury. You, tears picked to your eyes. I would never. You want to get close to me, fine, but don't use my daughter for it. It's pathetic. The word pathetic hit harder than it should have. You stood there, frozen, while he grabbed a glass of water. His movement cold and mechanical. He didn't look at you once. When he finally turned away and walked upstairs, you let the tears fall, silent, trembling, heart-cracked tears. The next morning, you didn't sleep. You sat in Mina's room all night, running your fingers through her soft hair, while she slept peacefully, unaware of the storm she would cause. You didn't blame her. How could you? She just wanted a family that felt complete, something you wanted to once, before your husband turned your heart into glass. The next morning, you left forever without a word. The car engine faded down the driveway, leaving you in the echo of emptiness. You moved through the house like a ghost, a maze avoided your eyes. Breakfast went untouched. When Mina woke up, she rubbed her eyes and asked, Is Daddy made at me? Is Daddy mad at me? You forced a smile. No, baby, he's just tired. She frowned, but I just wanted a brother. I know, sweetheart, he whispered, kissing her forehead. Sometimes grown up misunderstand things. It's not your fault, but deep inside, something cracked. Something that had been holding you together for too long. Everton sat in his glass-walled office, staring at the city skyline. His assistant spoke numbers, meetings, projects, but he was not listening. All he could hear was Mina's teeny voice. Appa, can I have a baby brother? And your eyes wide, hurt, and trembling. He ran a hand down his face, exhaling sharply. Damn it, he didn't mean to say those things, but years of bottled emotions, guilt, and fear had turned him into someone he didn't even recognize. You would marry him when his world was toast. When business wars and battles had eaten away at his thirst, he would promise himself never to be weak again, never to let love control him. But you were not trying to control him. You just wanted to be loved, and now he had ruined that too. By evening, guilt had begun gnawing at his chest like a wildfire. You were sitting in the garden when he came home. The sky was painted in shades of dying gold, and the roses you had planted last spring were swaying gently in the wind. He stood there quietly, watching you from the doorway. You didn't notice him at first. Or maybe you did, but didn't care. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer. Wine? You didn't look up. I shouldn't have said those things, he said quietly. I was angry. I thought that I'm pathetic, you whispered, your voice trembling. That I'm using my daughter to tap you. He flinched, shame flooding his face. I didn't mean. But you did, you said, finally standing up to face him. You always do, Jangu. You always assume the worst of me. He opened his mouth and shut it, tears glistening in your eyes. Do you have any idea what it feels like to live with someone who looks at you like a stranger every single day? Ryan, I have spent years trying to make this house our home, trying to keep our daughter happy, trying to love you even when you wouldn't love me. Your voice cracked, but you didn't stop. And you know what hurts the most? That I stopped expecting anything back. Silence heavy, breaking things. I softened his throat, working hard. I know I have been cold, he said quietly, but it was not because I stopped caring. Then why? Because I'm scared, he admitted. Voisa, I don't know how to love without loving myself. I seen what it did to my parents. I didn't want to hurt you, you laughed bitterly. Well, he did anyway. He stepped closer slowly, cautiously, like approaching something fragile. Let me fix it. Can you asked her, steaming freely now. Can you fix years of distance with me, waiting for you to look at me like I mattered? He fell silent, and then silence was your answer. You turned away, your heart heavy. Good night, Jungkook. This time you walked away first. Days turns into weeks. Jungkook died. Jungkook died for the first time. He really died. He came home earlier. He helped me now with her hands. He even sat beside you during breakfast, time to talk about small things. The weather, your favorite coffee, anything to break the wall between you. But you didn't let him in easily. You smiled politely, you nodded, you answered, but you didn't trust. Because words could never erase the scars his silence had left. One night you found him in the living room, asleep on the couch. With Mina in his arms, he had fallen asleep while waiting for a bedtime story. Her little hand clutching his shirt, you stood there watching them, your chest tightening painfully. The cold CEO who once terrified everyone, holding his daughter like she was his entire world. Maybe she was the only one who could melt him. The next morning, Jung entered the kitchen. You were there as usual, preparing breakfast. He cleared his throat. Do you want to go out today? Just as dinner, maybe? You froze. It had been years since he asked you that. Why? You asked quietly. Why? You asked quietly. He exhaled. Because I miss my wife. Your breath. His eyes looked different. Softer the space and say you had said part of you wanted to say no to remind him how much he would hurt you. But another part, the one that still loved him desperately. Despite everything, whispered maybe this time. So you nodded, okay. He took you to the same restaurant where you would had your first date years ago. The lights were dim, the air fragrant with roses and wine. He pulled the chair out of you, a small gesture but enough to make your chest itchy. You remember this place? He asked, voice quiet. How could I forget? You said softly. Is where you promised to always make me smile. He winced. I broke that promise, didn't I? You didn't answer. He reached across the table, his hand trembling slightly. Fine, I'm sorry for every cold word, every night I made you feel alone. You didn't deserve that. Your throat tightened. I have spent years chasing success, thinking it would make me less afraid. He continued, but the truth is, I have never been more scared than when I realized I was losing you. Tears welled in your eyes. You wanted to stay strong. He stood and walked around the table, kneeling beside you. Please let me try again. No, for me, not just for us. You stared at him, heart torn between pain and hope. You can't fix everything in a day, you whispered. I know, he said, taking your trembling hand, but I will spend every day there. You looked at his face, the same one that had once been unreadable, now so full of regret and love, and maybe, just maybe, you could forgive. A month later, the house felt lighter. Mina laughed louder. You smiled more. Jangu still worked late sometimes, but he called every night. He helped cook breakfast on weekends, pally, but with so much effort you couldn't help but laugh. One evening, as the three of you sat watching cartoons, Mina climbed into Janko's lap again. Appa, she whispered, I still want a baby brother. You froze, but this time Janko chuckled softly. He looked at you, his eyes warm. Maybe one day, princess, when mommy says yes. You meet his cousin for the first time in years. There was no anger, no distance, just love. Pure, simple, patient love. You smile faintly. We will see. He leaned closer, whispering, that's not a no. You roll your eyes, but the warmth in your chest told you. This time things might really change. Months later, you stood in the garden again, the same one where you once cried your heart out. But now Jung's arms were around you from behind, his chin resting on your shoulder. Mina was running around with her toy bunny giggling under the sunset. Remember the last time we stood here? He murmured. You know this softly. How could I forget? He turned out gently to face him, brushing a sand away from your face. Thank you for giving me another chance. You smiled. You earned it. He leaned in, pressing his forehead against yours. I will never stop trying one, I swear. And when he kissed you, slow, trembling, full of everything left unsaid, it felt like coming home after years of winter. Maybe forgiveness didn't erase the past, but it made the future worth living again. And as Mina laughter filled the air, you realized something beautiful. Sometimes love doesn't return to where it began. It begins again, right where it was broken. The end.